My guest today is BAFTA-winning American composer for video game, Garry Schyman. Garry's here as part of the GEMS program to deliver a masterclass today at CEV, which is the Centre Superior de Comunicación Audiovisual aquí in Madrid. We're thrilled to have him. We're thrilled to be part of this amazing school, this innovative, exciting school. And I want to say welcome to Spain.
Thank you.
Welcome to Madrid and welcome here, Tom.
Thanks.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
So Garry, what can people expect today from the masterclass?
Well, I'm going to talk about scoring video games mostly, and some ancillary issues that would be relevant to whether you're scoring a game or a film or a television show. It could be combat and action music or some special techniques for achieving some very eerie qualities with the orchestra. So, but definitely we'll talk about video games, interactive music, and how it works and how to do it yourself.
Perfect. Now, how did you get started? Because you have an amazing history of not only video gaming, which you're well known for, but also of TV series and film. How did you get into it? Did you study?
Well, I studied music composition at the University of Southern California, which I now teach at part-time.
Indeed.
Scoring for video games there. But with the sense that I did not want to be a teacher. Ironically, I'm doing some teaching now, but I wanted to compose for film and television. Games were not really much of an opportunity when I first started. So I just got out and started working in television, and was very lucky to get an opportunity very early on in my career to write a lot of music for TV shows.
You mentioned the other day that you worked on co-writing series films.
Yeah. It's very common for a composer to work as sometimes called a ghost composer.
Yeah.
So I worked for Mike Post and P. Carpenter, who at the time were doing the A-Team and Magnum P.I. and Greatest American Hero, etc. And so they had so much television going on that they had 2 or 3 of us helping them write music, because there's an enormous amount of music. And television is almost unlike video games. The time allotted is very short.
Yeah.
You see the television show the week prior, and then the next week it's got to be done and recorded. Yeah. At that time, we recorded almost everything with an orchestra.
Wow.
Because that's what we really didn't have synths and samples and MIDI that was usable at that time. So it was paper and pencil, and off to the orchestra, and done, and next.
Now that's an amazing apprenticeship, isn't it?
It
you
was.
think about it, because it's a real world situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're under time pressure.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to deliver, and you're working with this amazing crew on a successful show.
Yeah.
How did you make that transfer from there into video game?
I was not seeking to score video games.
Right.
It was really, I had scored a couple of games in the mid 1990s, but then in 2004 I had an agent sent over my resume to THQ, which is a big publisher. Publishers are like studios, the equivalent of a studio in the video game industry. They finance games and they distribute, etc. THQ was making a game called Destroy All Humans.
Yes.
And they heard something on my demo that we sent over a demo on MP3s that they thought was in the right vein, and so and they said, "Do you have anything else like this?" I said, "Yes, actually," and I sent them a bunch of music relevant to this game. But they wanted the music to be in the style of like the 1950s sci-fi movies, like The Day the Earth Stood Still. And so I had music in that sort of genre, and the Bernard Herrmann-esque. Bernard Herrmann, of course, famously scored The Day the Earth Stood Still, and they eventually hired me. And that game was a success, and I sort of discovered games. I wasn't playing games at the time. I've since become at least a part-time gamer.
Yeah.
I like to play my games because
really.
It's very important to play your own games, because I'm what's called a contracted composer, meaning I'm not in-house. I'm almost never in the same city even of the companies that are developing the games.
Incredible.
So they're sending me stuff. I'm throwing it over the fence. They're using it. They're saying it's great. I'm done, but until I play the game, I really don't hear how the music was fully used and utilized and implemented into the score of the game. So it's important to play the game.
Now, that's interesting. What are some of the challenges that you face as a video game composer? Because obviously it's a different medium, and you have different challenges, and people have a lot of autonomy, a lot of freedom when they're playing the game, and no two people, as you say.
Right.
So how does that work for you as a composer? What are your challenges when you're faced, and how does it map out for you when you're composing?
Right. When you score a film,
Yep.
or a television show.
Yep.
Actually, the implementation is simple. You write the music to that scene. The scene is never going to get longer or shorter. Now, when they're editing it, of course, they're always chopping it up to the last minute. But let's assume at the end it's locked. It's forever frozen in time. And that, by the way, that implementation was developed in 1928, and it hasn't changed since, really. Yeah, it's the first talkie music in film. So, but in video games, it's quite different because, let's say you play some character and you're going into a haunted house, okay?
Yeah.
And so they want some music that's just sort of creating some ambient tension, you know. So one doesn't know how long any one player will wander in a particular room, but you want music. So through the technique of as simple as looping, where the music will just continually and seamlessly loop on itself until you leave the room, and then that loop goes away. So that's one form of implementation that would fit any player. So if one player, you could spend an hour in there hearing the same loop, which would probably be painful and boring at some point, or you could spend 3 minutes in there. And by the way, since players often play games that they really like multiple times, they might be in there for 30 seconds because they know it's in that room. They don't want to spend any time there. And yet the first time, it might be quite interesting to explore it. So these sorts of techniques. And then, of course, there's other techniques where maybe you open a closet and a zombie jumps out. So you want to catch that. Well, the game knows exactly what the player is doing and can trigger audio events. And an audio event, of course, can also be music. And so it can trigger a new piece of music or a stinger, you know, very loud, shocking bit of music that catches the zombie as you open the closet. Well, I'm just making this stuff up, but you get the idea. So because you have very sophisticated middleware that implements audio, including sound effects, dialogue, and music, and it knows what's happening. So, in fact, if an in-game character is talking to you, the dialogue is in sync with their mouth, so it looks like they're actually saying it to you. You know. Similarly, the music is in sync with any event that you trigger via this software.
Now, are you still getting the opportunity to use live orchestras when you're recording scores? Are you doing a mix? What are you doing?
Very much so. I mean, obviously, it depends on the style of the game.
Yep.
The game that I just finished a couple of months ago called Shadow of War. Coming out October 10th.
Indeed.
In stores near you. Was almost all, not all, but almost all orchestral. I spent 2.5 weeks recording in Seattle. Seattle Symphony Orchestra.
Wow,
and,
really?
Yeah, and we recorded the orchestra and choir in that area, and turned out fabulously well. I wrote 2.5 hours of music for the game, and also another composer, the in-house music director, wrote music as well. So we wrote a lot of music. It's a huge game. It's a massive game.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to. I told you, you need to take a month off and play the game.
One thing that I'm really excited about is that Gems contacted Warner Brothers, and they today on Garry's MasterClass will be giving away a couple of free copies of those Shadow of War, but it's not available until October the 10th. So some of our students today will be getting an amazing surprise. That's exciting. That's really good.
Great. That's fantastic.
Now
they haven't given me a free game.
You can get one from us. You can be one of the recipients.
So we're only going to give away one then, right?
We're only going to give one. Did I say two?
They're going to send me some games, but not until after October 10th.
Now, what's coming up next for you, for Garry, as the composer? What are you working on, and what are you aiming towards?
I'm scoring another game right now, and it is a virtual reality game, which is interesting. It's actually the second VR game that I've scored. This will have an orchestra. I'm recording it in Los Angeles.
Wow.
On October 20th.
Fantastic.
And looking forward to doing that.
You've had a good look round today at the campus where we are at CEV here in Madrid. It's an amazing complex. It's a huge building with over 1,000 students. What do you think the guys coming to the program today will get from it, knowing that they're working in this type of environment where there's cross-disciplinary opportunities to work with animators, video gamers, directors? What do you think they'll get from your program today and be able to bring into this college?
Well, I hope to give them an overview of interactive music from my perspective.
Yeah.
I think every composer, and I think this is true of film and TV, everyone sort of has their own perspective on working in the industry. But I'll certainly bring my perspective. I've scored a lot of games, and I'll talk about interactive techniques that maybe they can take with them, or at least begin the process of understanding them. Because ultimately, the only way you can use them is to write and successfully write in those styles and have that music implemented. So hopefully they can work with their colleagues here who perhaps are making games or films.
Fantastic.
And use some of these techniques successfully and actually make them part of their techniques that they can take anywhere.
Beautiful. One of the reasons Garry's also here is that we have an amazing concert, your world premiere of the Bioshock Symphonic Suite,
yes,
which is being performed tomorrow in Madrid, tomorrow night, and you're the guest of honor there. What are you feeling about that? Are you excited? What's going on?
I am very excited, yes. So looking forward to it. They contacted me and asked me if I would organize the various scores. There's 3 Bioshock games, so the Symphonic Suite is in 3 movements, 1 for each game. And so I'd never presented this music in this way. This music has been performed by orchestras and a number of orchestras all over the world, but never as such. So I'm really hoping that it sounds as good as I imagine, and we'll see tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, on behalf of GEMS and on behalf of CEV, we're delighted to welcome you. We're thrilled to have you in Spain, and we look forward to seeing you again, Garry. Welcome.
Thanks, Nigel.